Zoom. Where did this come from? 2019, it's a profitable company doing well. The last quarter, I think their earnings are up significantly over what they did last year in 2019 because the whole world is kind of gravitated towards using Zoom for so many different things, be it court hearings, which is the subject of this video, to grandpa's birthday party. You know, this is just a reality now that with the pandemic and what we're dealing with in 2020, and if you watch this beyond 2020, will Zoom hearings still be part of the court system or not? And from my understanding of what I've seen, doing probably 50 different Zoom hearings and mediations and depositions and anywhere from short little couple minute hearings to days long trial, so multiple days, full day of Zoom. Basically, I think that this in some form of Zoom is here to stay for the time being past 2020. And the reason for that is when we would go to case management conferences and status conferences, we had to drive from our office to the courthouse, go through security, sit there, wait outside, wait for the client. Now that was a good time to speak with your client. That was good, the ability to forge a little bit more of a relationship, because a lot of times, a lot of the relationship with your attorney is over the phone, over email, and then meetings here and there. But for the most part, court hearings are a part of the process. But now with Zoom, it's changed it a little bit. So again, before 2020 and before March, when basically everything turned to Zoom and telephone conferences, and again, a lot of judges are using just regular telephone conferences instead of Zoom. And I've also done basically Microsoft Teams and Google Meets and things of that nature. So it's not just Zoom, but a lot of what you hear and a lot of what you see, especially in the counties that we're practicing in this part of Florida, we're doing a lot of Zoom hearings. So before, again, you have the travel time of your attorney, driving to the courthouse, parking, or finding a parking spot, or trying to find a parking spot, going through security, waiting to speak with you, speaking with you, waiting to go into the courtroom, being called into the courtroom. A lot of times for case management conferences, sitting there through maybe 20, 30 other cases. If you're at the end of the docket, you're the last one, or sometimes you're first. It just depends on what you have going on after that, is whether you're going to be called first or last it seems to be. But for the most part, all that time, and then a little bit of time discussing things after the hearing, and then the drive back to the office. So I think you can see that there's a significant amount of time because attorneys bill by the hour. So if they bill by the hour, you can see that sometimes can be for a shorter hearing, especially status conferences or case management that may only last a few minutes or 5 minutes, could be 2 hours between the travel back and forth and all the other things that I explained, anywhere from an hour to 2. So that's something that people, again, are now taking into consideration and saying, okay, well, yeah, I've zoomed in for the hearing, and maybe there's a little bit of preparation to get ready for the hearing and look through it, talk with your client, maybe over the phone before the hearing. But then if you're sitting in the waiting room and you get called first or second or third, you're only on the Zoom call for a much shorter amount of time than sometimes what it is just to drive and try to find parking at a lot of our courthouses. So do I think for moving forward, status conferences and case management conferences, things like that, and smaller hearings, will the courts want to continue with some type of Zoom or telephonic? I would think so, but again, it's clearly not up to me. I'm just saying for part of this video of what is a Zoom hearing, that basically you use the Zoom application, which is very easy to use, and I think that's why it was so popular, because you just hit the link and you're boom, you're on, and you hit a couple buttons, and there's always some type of user acclimation process to any type of new technology. So judges are very good at dealing with people. If they're not muted and they need to be muted, sometimes the judge can mute them. There's the ability of breakout rooms to be able to go, so you can speak with your client, like you would, outside of a courtroom. You'd be able to go and leave or speak before or afterwards. So these breakout rooms have been a helpful thing. Now Zoom's, again, password protected in a lot of these meetings, so you get the meeting ID and the password, so that way people aren't Zoom bombing and just showing up at random hearings, which was, again, an early thing that Zoom has been a highly adaptable corporation that's found ways and understood that we needed them really badly during this time period since March, and right now we're in September, and so for this period of time we're looking at almost 6 months of using these different types of technologies to still continue to advance cases. So sometimes people will ask us, well, with the pandemic and with courts, aren't all the courts closed? Aren't we can't? No, I mean the courts are open. It's just in a different capacity. A lot of judges are doing the hearings either from their home or from their courtroom, but they're doing it in the Zoom capacity or telephonic capacity. So it's different, but you're still able to present your evidence. You're still able to have witnesses. You're still able to subpoena people to trials and to different hearings. You're still able to have your motions heard. And again, we've been e-filing cases for years now through the e-filing system. So it doesn't prevent people from filing the case. So a divorce can still be filed, because I do family law, so that's what this video is about, family law in Florida and Zoom, but it doesn't prevent the ability to still file your case. It's just Zoom is giving us the ability to continue to have the case heard, rather than it just sitting around and waiting for maybe something to happen and you be able to come back into the courthouse. So this is giving you that ability. I will say, for longer hearings, anything over an hour, especially day-long trials and multi-day trials, it does make it more complicated, especially if you have numerous exhibits and things like that. There is screen sharing and that type of options with Zoom, but it makes it a little bit more complicated rather than just having it in front of you in a courtroom, which is what most attorneys that have been doing this for at least a period of time are accustomed to, of having those exhibit notebooks and having the exhibits that you can show to a witness and say, is this your signature? So basically, it's different, but it still helps us to be able to get to the end result, and that's resolving your case. So that's what a Zoom hearing is. The technology itself, like I said, is basically pretty easy, and you can look it up. But if you get a notice saying there's a Zoom hearing, you got to make sure you're there on time. A lot of times you do sit in waiting rooms, waiting to be called. So basically the judge will have a waiting room, and you'll be sitting in there, and you don't see anything going on, and then you'll pop into the hearing. So that's a very normal thing. So that way, 900 people aren't just all sitting on the same docket, tons of attorneys and tons of people, just everybody going back and forth and nobody having it on mute. That would be obviously chaos. So the courts have now employed more waiting rooms that can let you in kind of as they would call your case if you were in a courtroom. So there's some benefits, there's pros, there's cons, as with a lot of this, but for the most part, while we're going through this pandemic, it seems like Zoom is here to stay, at least for the meantime. But this is just a little bit of information about Zoom hearings in Florida in the family law context. And I'm William S. Foley from William S. Foley, PA. If you have any questions, give us a call. Check out our website, wfoleylaw.com. And we appreciate it, and have a good one. Thanks.